Hey guys, it's Joe from American Muscle, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at the Roush Axle-Back Exhaust with black tips, fitting all 18 and newer GTs without the active exhaust. Now this is going to be a great option for any Mustang owner out there looking for a quality stainless steel exhaust that is really going to pack a punch in terms of volume and tone. So as you guys just heard, this thing is pretty loud, definitely packing the tone as well. Easily gets a 4 out of 5 on our Wake the Neighbor scale. Now keep in mind, I usually reserve that 5 out of 5 for the Catback system. Flowmaster Outlaws, Corsa Extreme, they'll usually get something like that. But for an Axle-Back, that is really surprising. Usually these are a little bit more toward the quiet end, but this can definitely hang with the big boys for a fraction of the cost. These are made out of full 304 stainless steel, which is pretty much the highest quality stainless you'll ever see on an exhaust kit. They also have mandrel bends throughout the entire length of this exhaust, albeit it is a short one. We pretty much only have one bend right here, but the mandrel bends, they're definitely a nice touch, help clean up the exhaust flow a little bit. And on top of that, that stainless steel is gonna keep these looking good and sounding good for years to come. And that money spent up front on the stainless, that can really go a long way, especially if you do live in an area that has snowy winters, salt on the road. These are gonna be a great option for you. These are Roush's high flow hollow chamber mufflers, which is basically where most of the sound is coming from. Really adds to the tone over factory, and this kit is going to end in some awesome 4-inch black quad tips, which really complement our black 19 GT here perfectly. However, if that's not your style, this kit is also available with the chrome tips, and if you like an active exhaust, that is also available for you as well. Pricing is going to fall right around that $700 range, which makes these relatively budget friendly. They also pack a 3-year limited warranty from Roush, and they're made right here in the USA. 700 bucks. Now that is going to be relatively budget friendly. It's easy to see why these are so popular. Now that's not to say that these are built to a price point. These are really high quality. Again, full 304 stainless steel. If you don't believe me, take it from our customers. As of late 2019, these guys get the full 5 out of 5 stars on our review section. Now, one thing I want to make a quick note of before we move on to the install here, these are only going to fit a non-active exhaust car. If your car does have that active exhaust, we definitely do have you covered. However, these are not the ones for you. Now, with that said, these are going to get an easy 2 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. Should take at most 2-3 hours to get these hooked up in the driveway. However, there is a little bit of cutting involved, and if you're not doing it on a lift like we are, that can be a little bit tough to do in a tight space, and that's why I give it the 2 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. Another thing is we're working with a convertible today, so there's a little bit of extra bracing in the way. These are gonna fit no problem, but it gives us a great opportunity to highlight the differences between the fastback and the convertible. So without any further ado, let me show you what tools you'll need and how it's done. Tools we use for this install will include an impact, 15mm socket, a saw, Sharpie, tape measure, some safety glasses, and lastly, to clean up our cut, a die grinder with the sanding pad. So if you've ever been under an S550 Catback, things might look a little bit different under this S550 convertible. You can see we have this big brace right here. That's not gonna be on the fastback, only on the convertibles. Reason being is when you cut the roof off, you lose a little bit of structural integrity. The car tends to be a little bit less rigid. We have a heavy IRS back here. We have a Coyote motor at the front, and you can't connect those two with just a floorboard. So when you chop the roof off, you have to add some more structural integrity. Usually that's in the door sills. On the S550, you also get this big brace right here. It's held on with a bunch of 15mm bolts. It runs all the way up to the front. Now, you can remove this if you want. but this is basically why you might go with an axle back setup if you have a convertible. We're gonna be cutting behind this. This is not going to get into our way at all. However, if you do want to do a whole exhaust, you have to remove this. So without any further ado, we're gonna knock on the safety glasses here, grab the Sawzall, head over to our mufflers and get cutting. So in this shot, we're gonna be working on the passenger side exhaust right behind the muffler. This tube right here, this is gonna come out of the rear of your muffler. You can see it makes that 90-degree bend there. We're gonna make our cut right after that straightens out. You could actually see where this was clamped down by the pipe bender right there. I'm gonna go in just a hair. And we're gonna make that mark basically straight back. You wanna make sure you're completely clear of this radius and you have a nice flat, clean cut. And then our axle back is going to clamp right onto that. Now with that cut made, all you have to do is drop that down a little bit, and that is gonna back right out of the hanger. Now we're just gonna take a die grinder, clean up the edges a little bit, and do the same thing for the other side. So now we have our factory stuff cut off of our S550. Now is the perfect time to stop down, bring up our Roush Axle-Back, and point out some key differences between the two. But before we do that, first things first, let's talk about a few similarities here. Both of these are going to be stainless steel, however, a different grade. We're going to talk about that in a second. Both are going to have mandrel bends on the piping. That is going to be a nice feature to allow the exhaust to flow as smoothly as possible. Both of these are going to have 3.5-inch tips, however, different colors again. We're going to talk about that in a second. So the Roush ones, they're not too different from the factory stuff, but the biggest difference between these two, we're ditching these big old restrictive mufflers that are basically muting the sound of our 3rd-gen Coyote. We're going straight over to these Roush straight-through mufflers, and these are going to allow this thing to breathe a little bit better. You're definitely going to hear that 5.0 rumble. We are also upping the stainless steel grade. Like I said earlier, these are 409 stainless steel for the muffler and 304 on the tips. Now 304, that's gonna be a little bit more high quality. You'll never see any surface rust like you see over here on the 409. And basically they only reserve that for the tips because it is a little bit more expensive for Ford to buy. However, our Roush kit is gonna be full 304 stainless throughout. So you're gonna see clean metal, just like this for the entire life of your Mustang. Again, these are gonna be looking good and sounding good for years to come. You might see a little bit of discoloration with the heat on the muffler area, but I'd take that over the surface rust you see here on our 409. Now also, our tips are changing up a little bit. This is really the only part you're gonna see. You'll never see that heat discoloration anyways, but we're going from that chrome tip over here from the factory over to the quad black tips. That is gonna be a huge upgrade, and like I said, it fits our triple black convertible here perfectly. On top of that, we do also have a nice laser etched Roush logo on the side. I put those tips back on just to draw some comparisons between the factory stuff and our new Roush kit. We're gonna take those back off, grab the mufflers, a couple clamps, head back to the Mustang and get these guys strapped up. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and put our muffler out there. You want it set up like this. Grab a clamp, you want the nut facing toward the rear and on the bottom. You also want to transfer over your hanger isolator, and then on the bottom of the muffler, you want the Roush logo. So without any further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get that started in the pipe we just cut. And then we could rotate that up to lock it in place. I'm just gonna secure that again with our factory 13mm hardware. Then we could put our tip on with another 15mm clamp, and then we can lock down both of those once we have our alignment set. Then we're gonna come to this one at the back. I'm just gonna rotate that up a little bit to get us a little bit more clearance, and we can lock that down as well. Then we're gonna go over here and do the same exact thing on the other side. Then we can go ahead and put on our tip with another clamp. And we're just gonna line this up again and tighten everything down with a 15mm socket. That's gonna do it for my review and install of the Roush Axle-Back Exhaust with black tips, fitting all 18 and newer GTs without the active exhaust. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Keep it right here in American Muscle for all things Mustang.